Hi everyone, welcome to Being Real, our second episode. Insecurities, the killer of good things. So this evening, we'll be talking about insecurities like I've highlighted. But before we get into that, the nitty-gritties about insecurities, just want to introduce the people that are here. My name is Lesejo, aka Les, and my co-host is Nompilo Hlatshwayo, all the way in Bulawayo. I'm in South Africa, and I have, or rather we have, the beautiful panelist or the panel, and that is, we have, after I mention your name, perhaps just say hi, so that people can see you. We have Njabula Ntini, he's in South Africa.
Hi. Hi everyone. I can barely hear you, Lesego.
Jay.
Yes, I'm right here.
I don't know if you can barely hear me.
My video is on. Can anyone see me? Nompila, can you see me? Yeah. All right. Cool. Perfect.
All right. Then we have Kona Changela. Did I mention that Jabu is in South Africa? I think I did. And she's South African, but she decided to just be adventurous. She's in Austria at the moment. I can just say hi.
Wait. Oh, hi guys. Hi.
I'm not sure what's happening with on my side. Like it's black. I can't see people.
We also can't see.
Was very dark. And you can't see as well, ne? I'm not sure what's the path. Sean Banda, he's in Zambia, Lusaka. I think you're in Zambia. I'm in Lusaka at the moment, Sean. Can you just say hi wherever you are? Let's see the dog. The name is dog.
Hi. Yeah, I'm not in Lusaka at the moment. I'm in Kaoma. The neighbor's dog's right there. I'm sitting outside because the house is a bit noisy, but glad to be here.
My sibling. We'll explain what it means later on. But anyway, welcome everyone, wherever you are. Thank you for taking time out to come and listen to us as we have this conversation that we believe is very critical to be had in this time that we're living in. Like we've always emphasized in our clips, even our talk last week, that the reason we're having this is to share our experiences, what we're going through. Like young people are going through the most, and we're not talking about what we're going through. So like, let's have the kid do for you, or for someone else as you share this what you have the conversation. It's not an interview, as peers about what you're going through. So yeah. I'll hand over to my co-host, Nompilo, at the moment.
Hey y'all, so today we're talking about insecurities, and I was just hoping that we could define that before we go forward with our discussion, because I think it's important that at least we establish what it is that we're talking about. I don't know, Akona, do you have a definition for insecurities that you could give us?
I struggled with trying to come up with a definition for this. Am I fine without the video on?
If you can switch on your video, that'll be fine.
Maybe if you're not insecure, you can switch on your video.
I'm still feeling a bit insecure. I'm still waking up towards it, so.
Okay. No, it's fine. It's fine. We are talking about insecurities after all. Yeah, so I was saying I kind of like struggled in a way to come up with a definition for insecurities, but just trying to think about my own insecurities that I've had over the years. I think I would say that it is basically not being certain or not feeling okay or being sure about certain parts, of yourself. It could be anything ranging from your body, your surroundings, anything could contribute to you having or feeling insecure about certain parts about yourself. So this then leads to fear of the unknown, right? Or it creates this fear of the unknown because you don't know how this will be received by other people outside of yourself. And it makes you feel less confident. It makes you magnify your fears. And it basically just paralyzes your confidence and lowers your self-esteem, in some way. So that's I think that's what I could come up with. I don't have like a clear definition of what it is, but yeah.
Okay, so if I'm getting you right, what you're establishing is that insecurities are bad. Is that correct?
Yeah. I think so. I think there's a fine line, between them being bad and them being good. They are bad because they don't necessarily help you in growing as a person. But I think they could be good in the sense that once you are honest and real, this is being real, once you are honest and real with yourself and the fact that you have insecurities or you are insecure about something, about yourself, then you know how to work around that and move away from having that as an insecurity. So that helps with growth. As people, we grow every day, and we don't grow unless there are things about ourselves that we need to be honest about. So that's why I'm saying they are bad if you are going to hold on to that, because they're not gonna, they don't make you feel happy and okay about yourself. But if you accept that and work with just moving away from that, then it helps. They help in growth, I think.
Okay, Sean, I'm curious. Do you agree with her? Like, because I'm getting the feeling that there is an absolute wrongness about insecurities.
I think that insecurity is a problem, but like I agree with you that there's a fine line. I think, for example, it is important for me to come to the realization that I'm not the most handsome person around. You know what I mean? I think that's a healthy thing. But then to move from there to start thinking that because of that I'm not valuable, because of that I'm not desirable, because of that, like all these negative thoughts and emotions that tend to stem from such realizations. I think that's where I'll draw the line. I think that's what I'd consider an insecurity, and I think that's wrong. So I don't like. I think it's unhealthy. So I just want to make that distinction. The realization that, like, look, I'm not the brightest apple in the bunch. That's a positive thing. You are being realistic. You are in touch with reality. But then to make that such a strong negative, to make that define you, I think is where it becomes really problematic and affects the quality of your life.
Okay. I was just looking at the dictionary definition of insecurity, and my dictionary says self-doubt as a synonym. It says the state of being subject to danger or vulnerability. So I'm kind of getting the feeling that insecurity isn't really a good thing. I had similar thoughts that it has its positives and its negatives, but I'm hoping that we can get to that as we move on. Jabulo, what are your thoughts on insecurities? Like when you were asked to be part of this panel, like were you excited or were you a bit frightened about the topic that we're talking about today?
Oh yeah, I think it's it's an interesting topic because I think one point or the other we have felt insecure, whether be it in a relationship, be it in a workspace, at a workplace, or whatever relationship it may be, or however you've encountered life, even the way you've been brought up. You've also had some insecurities. So I think each one of us has gone through that phase. So I think I started some introspection, so I started to think, well, what is insecurity? What have I been insecure about? And why have I been insecure about it? And how have I dealt with it? But I think Akuna's definition was spot on, and I think even you. I think it's to do with lack of confidence. So I think you start, and I get what Akuna is saying, to say it's a good thing and a bad thing. Good thing is, I'm going to repeat what she said. The moment you realize that I'm insecure about the way I look, you see, now you're asking yourself, and now you're trying to understand how you could fix it. Or I'm insecure about myself and about me being in a relationship. Now you start asking yourself, so if I know that this is my fault, how do I fix it? And how do I grow as a person? So I'm for the idea that it could be a good thing and a bad thing. It's a bad thing if you don't know that you're insecure. It becomes a good thing when you realize that, okay, now these are my insecurities and this is how I'm going to deal with it. So then it becomes a good thing because now you know who you are. You're trying to be real with you, and you're trying to deal with that demon that you have going on. Demon not is in a bad spirit, but yeah. So yeah, I think
Okay, so
those are my thoughts. Yeah, so far.
okay, so I'm gonna throw this at any one of you. So you talked about insecurities about being in a relationship, insecurities about your looks and all that stuff. But I'm curious to know, like, are we born with insecurities, or how do we get these insecurities that we're struggling with clearly?
I think it's quite vast. Hey, I don't think it's one line, it's one road. One can be insecure with the way they've been brought up. Okay, if my mom and dad or my family around me or my aunties and uncles are not telling me that you are loved, are not supporting me, are not trying to are not showering me with love and confidence, because truth be told, how you're brought up somewhat reflects on how you relate to people and how you relate to things, and how you deal with things. So if you are not brought up in a loving home, if you're not brought up in a home where you're told that you can do it, Jabulo, you can do it. Whatever you set your mind to, you can do it. If you're not taught and those things are not imbued in you, it's a mess. You're going to be insecure with whatever, no matter how good you are at school, no matter how good you are with anything. But if those things are not for you, you're going to be insecure somewhere, somehow, And so I think that's another line. There are different insecurities that can creep up.
So what you're saying is lack of affirmation can help build up this insecurity that you may have in your life.
Yeah, that's one of them. I think, let me not say all of them. There are other things.
Oh, okay. Does anyone else? Yeah.
I actually agree with what Jabulo just said, because it just reminded me of a conversation I had with a friend of mine who took psychology in varsity. And we were talking about this whole issue of insecurities, and then she said, when a child is being born, they are not born into insecurity, or rather they are not born insecure. A child has so much confidence and they rely solely on the parent. So it is the environment that creates those insecurities, or that makes the child feel insecure. So the moment the absence of the mother or the absence of the father or both parents is there, the child knows that I'm actually vulnerable because vulnerability also is kind of like positive and can also be negative, in the sense that, like you said, Nombi, the definition said that being exposed to danger, something like that. So, and then there was vulnerability in that definition as well. So it says that the child then feels like they are being exposed to danger because they know that they are fully protected and safe and secure when the parents are there. So I wouldn't say that a child just by being born, they're born insecure, but it is the surroundings, it is the experiences, it is what they are exposed to and the influences around them that makes a person, have these insecurities, whatever the insecurity may be. So affirmations, I strongly believe in that. I strongly believe in zooming in and expanding on the positive. That is why it is also important to watch what you say when you're around kids, because they're like a sponge. They take in everything. And so whether you are reprimanding the child, whether you are just having an adult conversation, if it's in the presence of the child, then they can take that all in. If it's like a negative conversation, if they think it's okay. So those things, they add, or they can create these insecurities in a child. So yes, affirmations are important. And there are people, or there are children who are born into homes that already have toxicity, So those, obviously, they will grow up with insecurities because they never felt safe to begin with. But when they were born, they didn't know and understand that they were not safe because they had their mother, right? But the moment they were aware of their surroundings, then the environment was toxic as it is, then those insecurities will creep in or creep out. What's the right English? I don't know. Earlier on in their childhood. Yes, they will, yeah, earlier on in their childhood than they would for any other child who was born and raised in a loving, warm home.
Okay, so I'm gonna throw you under the bus here because, like the show says, it's being real. What insecurities are you guys struggling with?
Ooh.
I actually wish my video was on when I asked that question because I had a really big smile on my face.
Yes, we want to see your face.
Yeah, so I don't know who's gonna answer that first, but shoot.
All right, I think before I answer that, I think there's another angle that we could look this whole insecurity thing, and it's quite an interesting thought that thought, or what I've observed and probably what I've done as well, is the thought of me coming from a beautiful home, me being I was having a beautiful upbringing, okay, and then I get involved with someone who has insecurity problems, and now they start portraying their insecurities onto me, all right, telling me that, Njabulo, you're okay, I'm brought up to be told that I can do whatever I want, I set my mind, I want to be a CA, I want to be a accountant, I want to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and now I'm in love with someone who's telling me constantly that, no, man, I think it's not okay, you could, no, it doesn't suit you, or no, don't do that. And you've got someone that you genuinely love, but that person has the insecurities, but they're putting those insecurities onto you. And in turn, if you're being told you can't continuously by someone you love, or someone you're in a relationship with, you end up feeling insecure, and you end up thinking that actually, maybe I can't do that. So insecurity can also come in a form of someone who's already insecure, and because they're insecure and because they have lack of confidence, they're trying to hide their insecurities, and now they bash you to try and feed off you, if that makes sense.
Man, I just need to comment on that for a second. So what you're saying is, if you have insecurities and you fail to deal with them, there is a high chance that you're going to project those insecurities onto someone else.
Yeah, absolutely,
Scary,
because
man.
you're so insecure, but you don't know how to deal with it. Again, what we were saying earlier, what Akun was saying, that it could be a good thing and a bad thing. So it's a good thing if you now realize that this is my insecurity, and well, I'm insecure, but if you haven't realized that, you try and overcompensate. Even the liars talk too much because they are trying to hide the guy behind the other guy. And so you get someone who's so insecure, but they don't know how to deal with insecurities. So now they bash onto the people that they love the most. And unfortunately, the one who's getting it gets the end of the stick and ends up being insecure, ends up, just saying, rubbish. I don't care about love. This is not going to work because this doesn't make sense. So yeah, it's scary.
Okay. That is scary. Now back to my question. I still need my question answered. I need an answer.
Maybe
I
Sean
thought you'd gone.
Sean, go for it.
And not just Sean, like Lesejo's on mute. I don't know what she's doing on mute. I need an answer, girl.
Yes, Sean, Lesejo. Come on, girl.
Anna, I'm coming after our corner. I can go first.
Yeah.
You guys
Go on,
clearly
Sean.
are very insecure.
I can go first. I'll give two. First, is a bit more serious. Like I feel like I am not. Oh, hi. Can you all get me?
Yeah, we can.
Oh yeah. Okay. I feel like I'm not African enough. Yeah.
What? I'm sorry. Did you say that's the serious one?
Yeah. Like I feel like I'm not African enough. Like I spent some time in London for school, and like people would ask me like, "What's your name?" And I'm like, "Sean." They're like, "What's your African name?" And I'm like, "Banda." And like, "No, like your African name." And I'm like, "Look, I have a first name and an African surname." And everyone's like, "How can you be from Africa and not have an African name?" And I'm like, "Okay, yeah." I don't know if you get what I mean. Like there's that whole thing. Then as well, like I'm Zambian, but I grew up in Zimbabwe. I spent some time in South Africa as well. I've moved about a bit. So culturally, like I missed a lot of lessons, so to speak, a lot of cues and all of that. So even within my own culture, I'm not Zambian enough most of the times. I don't sound Zambian. I don't act Zambian, like I don't behave Zambian and all these different things. So sometimes, like most of the time, really, I just feel like I'm not African and I'm not black enough. I spell and I pronounce properly. Yeah, and I give others a hard time for that. But yeah, and what that has translated to is that it has been difficult for me to belong in different settings. Like whenever I move from one place to another, it takes me a while to really feel like I belong. Yeah, I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, that's kind of like my major one. The less serious one is that I can't dance. Like, an African who can't dance. So like even
You're
at
not alone,
weddings,
my
like
brother. You're not alone.
people put me on like lineups, and I beg. I'm like, look, put me in logistics, put me in like anything else, because I can't dance. And they're like, no, we want you there. And it is like I'll be sweating thinking about it. I'll be sweating throughout the wedding until the dancing part is over. But yeah, those are my two.
Sean, can I ask a question?
Sure.
You're saying something quite interesting, and I just want to understand your first insecurity. Is it because of lack of knowledge of your culture, or that's what makes you insecure, that you're not well versed with your culture? And so despite the traveling, everyone travels. Like it's a thing now. We all travel. Akona is in Austria now. We're all over the place. Everyone's travel. So is it because it's lack of knowledge of where exactly you come from? You're from Zambia, but lack of the culture in itself that makes you insecure? That if someone is to ask you, Mr. Banda, what is your genealogy? Where do you come from? And that's what makes you insecure. Is that it?
No, not necessarily. Like in terms of knowledge, I have gathered quite a lot of that. But there's certain things that, especially like in your early days, your early years, you pick up that manifest wherever you are, whatever you're doing. and kind of become like your identity, that kind of thing.
Mm.
So for me, like from 3 to 13, I was in Zimbabwe, and like, you know, there's a rich culture there, but the whole time I'm there, I'm being told this is not your culture. Like parents are saying like, look, we want to go back home, and in my mind there's a conflict, because this is home, you know what I mean? Here where I am, this is home, but you're talking about home somewhere else. So already there's this disconnect from my parents already, and then also from the Zimbabweans there's also a disconnect, because you'll be playing, you know how it is as kids, you're all playing together, then something happens and they're like, this foreigner, you know what I mean? So once again, there's that disconnect. So it's just that, like, now that I come back here, there's a lot of these things that we do within our cultures that are quite natural. They are not natural, but they are ingrained in us at a young age. I don't have a lot of those things. So I'll give an example. One of them is that I have been taught to respond. Like if my parents are speaking to me, I'm supposed to give an answer. I'm supposed to explain why I did something. But culturally, like here, that is considered rude. So many times, like let's say it's a church or whatever setting, I will usually not hold back. I'll speak up. And then they're just like, what kind of kid is this kind of thing? You know, he has no manners, what? You know what I mean? So it's like, it's just hard to kind of fit into, I was going to say, not stereotypes, but to fit into those cultural constructs. I hope that answers your question, NJ.
Yeah, I'm good.
Okay, who's next?
Jabulo.
Lesego. Where's Lesego? Well, I think I'm not insecure right now. That's for sure. I'm not insecure with anything right now.
Have you
mean you
had
don't know
insecurities
what you're
before?
insecure about?
I don't know. I'm really not insecure about anything right now. I can tell you my past insecurities. I think for me, one of the major, which it's taking a while for me to deal with it. Just I think being insecure when I think just lack confidence with regards to the future, to say what's the game plan with the future. And sometimes when you have moments where it's quite hazy and it's dark and you're not sure whether you're going or coming, that probably still makes me feel very insecure and just makes me cringe. I think that's probably the biggest insecurity sometimes that I have, when you're not sure whether you're going or coming and it just gets blurry. And then now, even when you relate to anyone or whoever, it just makes you feel uncomfortable. But other than that, I think I'm alright, guys. I think I'm really okay.
That's nice.
I'm gonna go for it.
That's totally nice.
Oh wow, mine would have to be my biggest insecurity would have to be not being good enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's being second best.
Yeah.
I go out of my mind, because I think because of the way I was raised and the relationship I have with my parents and my family. Listen, if you want someone who's confident, I have confidence, okay?
Yes, girl.
I know I am smart. That I do not doubt for a moment. I know I'm very smart. But when it comes to all those things, and the person that I am, and what I really can do and what I bring to the table, no matter where I am, I give it my best. But having given my best, I feel very insecure when I have done all of that. It doesn't matter where I am or with regard to what, but when all that is said and done, I'm still not good enough. It's an insecurity. It's also my biggest fear. So I've struggled with that. I mean, people see it differently and stuff like that, but I've personally struggled with that. I'm working on it. It's been a journey, but yeah, it's one of those things that just sets me off. Like, yeah.
I think it sets everyone off though, in the sense that you give your all into whatever you put your mind to it, be it work, be it a relationship, whatever, and then some random person comes to you and say, bruh, you didn't do enough. I think it's just lose you off completely,
Yeah.
Or you're loving this person with your all, but you're just getting the end of the stick. It's just drama after drama. Yeah, I think it just, man, I think it throws, that throws everyone off. Come to think, so maybe I might be insecure, guys.
Hey, so especially in a
maybe I
relationship. In a
And,
relationship, oh my God.
I'm
That was
actually glad you
rough.
mentioned that, Akona, because I think I was feeling insecure about my insecurity, and you were just spot on with my
Oh, okay.
insecurity. Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
resonate a
insecurity.
lot with that.
It's
Okay.
crazy. For instance,
Yeah.
I've been working on this presentation for the past 2 weeks now, and I just could not send it to my supervisor for comments for like a whole week, because I felt like there was something I should have done. I was like, no, there's something I must still do with this presentation. It was good. It was a good presentation. Listen, but for me, that good was not good enough. Okay, because when in my head, I'm like, when I send this to my supervisor for her comments, I need her to say that this is perfect. I don't want it to be second best. I don't want her to say, okay, I need to send it to so and so they can polish it, because that makes me second best, and I've spent so much time working on this presentation, right? So it's like you give your all, but at the same time, it's so bad that you end up second guessing yourself, even though you've given your all. So that's just that. Not to don't start when it comes to relationships, friendships, and stuff, because that's a story for another day.
Okay. I don't know, Les, do you have any insecurities?
She ran away.
I knew it. I just knew it. I just knew it. But while we wait for Les, I'm thinking, Akona, you mentioned about how you're working on your insecurities. How are you doing that? Because I think ultimately we've already established insecurities are bad.
Yeah.
And aside for them being bad for ourselves, they have negative connotations for the relationships that we get into, and even just our family relationships. And we don't want to project our insecurities onto other people. So how, and this is a question not just to you but to everyone here, but how can we get over our insecurities?
Okay, so how I deal with my own insecurities, first of all, like I said, first and foremost, you need to accept that this is an insecurity for you. You really can't deal with something that you have not accepted. You have to be honest with yourself. And for the longest time, from when I was a little girl, I've kept a journal. So it helps because you write your thoughts, and that's how you get to know that actually this is a recurring thought. So this is actually what you're thinking about yourself, and this is what you don't like about yourself. So in working on that, I work on affirmations. So I do a lot of affirmations, as much as I can, and as many times as I can remember, because it's not like I do it every day. I wish I could say I do it every day. I stand in front of the mirror and like, listen, girl, you are beautiful, you are smart, you are what. No. But you know what has worked for me is that whenever that insecurity creeps up, that's when I need to affirm myself. I reaffirm myself right there and then, so that it doesn't magnify and I don't linger longer in that thought or in that insecurity. Yes. And I talk about it. Really. I talk.
Just to bring you back a bit, like, what do your affirmations sound like?
oh, everything, you know, from pretty much I start where the insecurity comes up. So for instance, there's one insecurity I've had about one of my, you know, like my body, not my entire body, by the way, just like a certain part of my body that I was so insecure about for a very long time. And I remember one time I was at home and my dad, because he knew that I had this insecurity and my mom knew as well. And then he was like, it's just out of the blue, you know, I had not said anything. And my dad was like, he just gave me the validation I needed at that time, and I didn't know I needed that validation. So I take those as well, you know, the validation, the reaffirmations from people around me, and I make them my affirmations. So it will start with, if I'm struggling with maybe a project and I'm like, Akona, you are smart. Akona, you can do it. And if I'm struggling with, you know, this part of my body that I'm like, I look at it, I'm like, girl, you still have not given me enough reason to like you or be confident about you. But I look at how far I've come, right? So because our bodies change over time anyway. So I look at how far I've come and then I'll do an affirmation based on that. Akona, you may not necessarily have you know, I think someone mentioned, I can't remember who it was, but that you're not the most beautiful person in the room, for instance, right? But you are beautiful in your own way. That's an affirmation. That's an affirmation. Listening to a song that says something positive to you at that very moment when you think or you are going through negative thoughts, that is an affirmation. So I repeat those affirmations to myself. I repeat that song. If it's a Bible text, I repeat it. If it's something that I read in a book, I repeat it until I believe it. You know, when they say fake it till you make it. So my affirmations vary, really. They vary. They depend on what I'm going through and what I'm thinking at the time. And I just say them until I believe it. So I do that. I have friends that I talk to about that. It's so important to have conversations about these things and be honest about it and laugh at yourself. Laugh about it. It is the strongest medicine you could ever take. Just laughing over it, talking about it, and then walking away feeling lighter. It really helps. Yeah.
Yeah, I can just chip in there as well. Like I use a slightly different method. I like to ask myself why I am feeling or thinking that way about something. And the reality is that so many of our insecurities are basically social constructs. Like, so I'll give an example. Like, you know, I'm sure most of you have heard of colorism within the Black community. The idea that the lighter you are, the better and everything. Yes. And so, like for me, I'll get something I had to ask myself, where is this coming from? Who decided? Which committee sat down and decided this? Like, why should I accept that as a person? I mean, if somebody else wants to believe that, my take is like, you know, that's okay. That's your business. But the question is, for me, why should I believe this message that has been coming from whomever it has been coming? And for me, that's one of the things where like it just begins to break down this insecurity, break it down to its elements. And typically you just realize that it has no foundation. It was meant to oppress. And then I decide that I'll not let it oppress me. And then there's other things where like perhaps, and I don't know why looks such a thing, but realize, look, I'm not the smartest guy in the room. And I just ask myself, but do I need to be the smartest guy in the room? Why do I feel under pressure to be the smartest guy in the room? Why do I feel under pressure to be the most good-looking person or the most well-dressed person in the room? Like, does it really matter? Does it take away from who I am? Does it take away from my value? Does it take away from what I can contribute? And then I start, like, you know, thinking ahead. You begin to realize as well that focusing on those elements takes away your energy and your attention from the areas of your life where you do stand to add value.
Yeah.
I don't know if you get what I mean, right? So if I'm focused on, I'm not that smart, I'm not using the smarts that I do have, because I'm too focused on the fact or the idea that I'm not that smart. And like for me, just think like I am my personality type is logistician, so I can only sort of like fix some of these things in a logical manner. But that's one thing that really works for me. And even like, you know, thinking back to when did this start? When did I start feeling this way? When did I start? Because I just think a lot of these things, as long as I deal with it superficially, it will either take some time and then come back, or it will simply take another form. So I'll have the same insecurity, it will just present differently. And it will take me a while to realize that I still have this problem because it has changed form. And so for me, like a major issue personally is to get down to brass tacks. Like, what's the real issue here? Where is it coming from? What's the justification for it? This weakness or disadvantage, whatever it is it legitimate or not? If it is legitimate, what can I do about it? If there's nothing I can do about it, then I have to embrace it and live with it. And like for me, that thought process really helps.
And you know, sorry, just if I can just mention something, add to what Sean just said. You know, sometimes it's even the pressure we put ourselves in, because you are out here trying to make it in life, in whatever way you may possibly want to, but by competing with people that are not even competing with you, by wanting to impress people who don't even care about you, who are not even following your life. So I think what you mentioned, Sean, was very powerful, that to say, investigate, interrogate where this feeling is coming from, because sometimes you will realize that it's actually not even other people, it's you. The problem is you. So you need to fix something that's within, because suddenly you just turned 30. So you suddenly believe that whatever society is saying about 30-year-olds and what they should have achieved by 30, you take it and you internalize it. And no one has said you should take it. It's there, it's in society, yes, but no one has forced you into taking it. But you have put that pressure onto yourself to say, no, I must have achieved A, B, C, and D because I'm 30 and so has done it. Therefore, I should also have it. And you start feeling like a failure. And it's like one insecurity can birth another insecurity, and then it's like a cycle, and you find yourself depressed.
Okay, so before we move on, you guys have said some like really mind-blowing stuff. First thing, Akona, you mentioned about affirmations, like it's important for affirmations to be a part of your life. And then Sean, you talked about how we need to get to the root cause and stop dealing with things superficially. And just now, like that whole point, like that just blew my mind away. Like how sometimes the problem is you know, you fail to realize, like we have this victim mentality that everyone is like piling on all these things on me. There's expectations for me to be perfect, expectations for me to look a certain way, expectations for me to speak a certain way. And yet really maybe the problem is you and you need to deal with that. Les, I don't know if you have anything to like fill in right there.
Okay. Yeah, I think for me, look, my network has been busy, guys, misbehaving. Yes, Satan. Anyway. So, on the issue of you guys saying, these things, you find that it has a purity. So I just want to bring that up. I'm not sure if it's you'll tell me, guys, because I was confused trying to figure out what is an insecurity in the whole process in my life and whatnot. So what I've realized with myself is perhaps is not being good enough, but taking a different shape in this with my life, in a sense that for example, perhaps with relationships and stuff. And when someone rejects you, you know, and it hits hard, and you ask yourself, is it me? You know, you feel like I'm not good enough because you're being rejected. So you fear rejection because you feel that you're not good enough. But now I sit down and ask myself, but where's this thing gonna land? When I learned, which I did not know, I realized that actually, when I was growing up, you know, I was a daddy's girl in a way, but not in a way, again, I don't know how to explain it. So, you know, when you want approval from your dad, whatever that you do, your dad must say, you've done good. My dad was very athletic. So in the mornings he will wake up, go run and stuff and whatnot. Remember the other time I was like, I want to join you when you go run in the mornings. And he would wake me up at 4 a.m. Sometimes I was like, no, it's 2 a.m. I'm not going with you. But you know, I wanted to be in his space so that he can
Oh no.
you know, I can be and in most cases I realize in a bad way, but you know, you want to, I don't know how to explain it, but yeah. So you want your dad to affirm you and tell you that you're good enough, you know, and you're doing good. And you're not getting that from what? From a father figure. So Sean comes along or NJ comes along, whatever, and they decide that they're no longer interested and stuff. When they leave, I would feel rejected, you know? But now the root cause comes from where? It's my dad. It's not them. It's my dad. So I had to go back and like, the issue is that I never got, like, I think it goes back to affirmation type of a thing. Like, you don't have to do much. You're good enough in this space, even if you are not an athlete as I am and whatnot. So
Yeah. Network is not
And
great.
she said
It's not
something so
cooperating.
important.
She really has. She really has.
Really is.
I think, but guys, I've got a different. Is she talking?
I don't think so. I think you can go ahead, NJ.
I think, yeah. It's yeah. She said a mouthful.
good enough. I'm good. Continue. You're waiting.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay. No, I'm saying you said quite a mouthful. Like what you're talking about is quite is real, and it's what's happening like in our everyday lives. But I have a different philosophy to it. Is it not time that we start learning about self-love? Because I think it will help us to deal with a whole lot of insecurities, okay? In the sense that if Jabs decides to be funny, we're dating, and he wakes up one day and says, you know what, I'm done, I don't want this anymore. Yes, of course, you're gonna hurt, of course, because we have invested so much time, and you can't wake up and say, I don't want you anymore. It doesn't make sense. Obviously, you're gonna ask yourself a lot of questions. But I think if you deal with it from, okay, it's my happiness, it's my life, and it's how I want to be treated, and this is how I want to deal with things. Do you not think self-love helps a lot in dealing with insecurities? Because a whole lot of times is we don't love ourselves most of the time. So when these things creep up, or when a branch that was giving you when your hype man when your hype man goes MIA, whether be it dad, whether be it mom, be it a lover, be it whoever, or be it a friend, when the hype man goes MIA, you have this missing thing, you have this hole inside you that will then destroy your entire self. But if the hype man was just like an extra bonus, but you already hyped up, and hype man is just an extra. It's like it's a flower. It's like an extra thing, an added thing. But if you are okay and have so much self love, so whether the hype man is there or not, you don't feel inadequate. If that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I actually agree with you that I think an internal construct is so much more stable and healthy than an external one. And for me, part of that internal construct is just being realistic and thinking about it with a bit less emotion. So many times, like Les has brought up a perfect example of rejection, which we equate to us. Like, if I've been rejected, it means I'm not attractive. It means I'm not desirable. Some even go as far as say, I think I'll be lonely all the days of my life and everything.
Yeah,
but
I'm one of these single for the rest of my life and have 9 cats.
Exactly. But if I flip that situation to this exact same situation where I am the one doing the rejecting, the one who is not receiving the other person, so to speak, I realize that, like, look, there's many attractive women that I have not wanted to get into a relationship with, right? Which tells me that, like, look, rejection doesn't mean that the person is not attractive. There's many nice people that I have not wanted to get into. I don't know if you get what I mean. Like, I'm looking at it from my perspective, how I deal with these things, and then flipping it over. That, like, look, perhaps this person is just looking for something else, someone else, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. That's good. I just need to heal and also to find someone else. You know what I mean? Because it can get pretty rough. And yeah. Okay. Sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah. No. Like, again, the term is insecurity. So it's an inner thing. Surely it should be dealt with the inner man. And this is where I'm taking it from. Is I think we really have to strive to love ourselves, to really fall in love with yourself and being real with yourself. Because once that branch is gone, it's gonna mess you up completely. But if that branch is there, you're gonna even appreciate them and you're gonna love. It's gonna be good, because when I'm not trying to feed you and say, Akuna, you've got beautiful eyes every day. Akuna must know that she has beautiful eyes every day, and if I stop saying it one day, Akuna is gonna say, this guy doesn't love me anymore, and it's got nothing to do with that.
Preach, brother, preach.
Can I join in and
Go for it.
and agree with you guys, but only to a certain extent.
Go for it.
And here's why. I strongly believe in self-love, right? You cannot expect people to love you and love certain parts of you or everything about you when you just love half of you, right? Or you just love some certain parts about you and you expect someone else to just walk into your life and love all of you. I don't think that's healthy. I don't think that's even possible, right? There are certain things that we cannot expect from people. However, we live in a not so perfect world, right? There is so much that one can do. I don't want us to put pressure on people to have them feel like they don't love themselves when they feel insecure. Insecurities are there. They are a reality. They come up. But my issue with insecurities is when you hug them, you hold over them. You're like, oh, I'm insecure about this. And then you sit and you chill and that's okay. No, that's not okay, right? Because people fall into depression. Yeah, people fall into depression because they have these internal voices that tell them something that I can say everything to you, but if it's internal, you have this thing that you have already believed or you have been believing for so many years. I can say all the beautiful things that are the opposite of what you're believing, but because you haven't done the internal work, then you're not going to believe what I'm saying, what I'm telling you. Now, I want them to say, I agree with you in that regard. However, we are social beings, right? No man is an island. We are not created to live by ourselves. You have a responsibility towards yourself to love you, all of you, right?
Mhm,
But
mhm.
we live with people we meet people who come from different walks of life. And we work with these people, we relate to these people in so many different ways. And there are certain things that we receive. The reason why we like people or we are attracted to certain people, it's because there's something about them that makes our energies meet, you know. So that's why we form friendships, that's why we get into relationships, because this kind of energy that you're like, yeah, what the energy, our energies, they mix, right? But when you get into that relationship, there is something that you give in a relationship for it to grow. That is why relationships are work. And there is something that you have to receive, right? Because I'm not saying you should walk expecting to receive something, but because we are relating, it's not a one-way street. This thing is about two people in this relationship. We are relating. Therefore, insecurities have a potential of creeping up in this case. For instance, someone once said this person is just recently got divorced. The husband cheated on her more than once. And she says, you know what? I am the most confident person I know. But I don't care who says what. I love myself. I am confident, but I don't care who says what. But being cheated on is the one thing that will knock you over, and you will be like, wow, was that me? You will start questioning yourself because you have given so much of yourself into this relationship. You have given love without expecting anything in return. You have given support. You have given all that you understand love to be. And all you expected, well, for lack of a better word, is someone to just be decent. Do you get what I'm saying? Be decent about you being in this relationship. Be open. The reason people get to a point of having insecurities in relationships is because there is no clear communication. There's always that gray area where someone, you don't like me anymore. Tell me.
Yeah,
I shouldn't punish you. I shouldn't punish you for not liking me anymore. I shouldn't punish you for not wanting to be in the relationship anymore. It's your risk. It's your right not to want to be in this relationship anymore. Insecurities come in now when you start acting strange. You don't call me anymore. You don't see me as your girlfriend or your boyfriend anymore. You know, there's these things, these underlying issues these things that people do. They're subtle, but they have effects that are so big and leave you questioning yourself as a human being. And it doesn't mean you don't love yourself anymore, or you love yourself less than you have before you walked into this relationship. But it's because the actions of that person, they have affected you. And now you are looking at yourself in a different way. And that is why how you rise up, the self-love now comes up when you say, okay, so this person has done this thing to me. I accept that they've done this thing to me and it has hurt me deeply. Now, how do I move forward? You have to remember, because we are human, guys, we forget. So the actions of other people, they sometimes make us forget that I actually am better off without this person if they're going to act like this. So validation, whether it's a relationship or it's a friendship or whatever, or family or whatever, validation is important. Reassurance is important. Reaffirming the person is important. We already live in a sick world. We already live in a toxic and world. We already live in an imperfect world. We don't need to have people that we allow into our spaces to add. We're already fighting, guys. We're fighting a lot of things. So I don't need you to come into my space and I open up to you. And then you start acting funny, just like when you were saying, Sean, that you like a girl. Rejection, no one is built up for rejection. No one can say, I am so strong that any rejection can come. No, guys, no one is built up for rejection. That thing is evil. I don't even think men are brave enough to walk up to a girl. Listen, I always say, guys who are brave enough to come ask me out, they are brave. Because I don't even have a nice face. I don't even have an inviting face. So the moment you come to me, you ask me out knowing that you might be rejected. right? You have that box there, that little room that says Akona might reject me. However, when I do reject you, Nyanyani, you walk away knowing I went to her knowing she might reject me, but you still feel bad. You feel hurt. But my issue is you staying in that feeling and saying, or in that box or in that room and say, okay, I've been rejected. Therefore, the problem is that therefore. But I think we need to be really, we need to work on ourselves. We need to, because the way you treat yourself and the way it reflects on the way you treat other people.
Okay, so I'm getting two things here before we move on. One is I have a responsibility to myself to get out of the rut that I'm in, that is my insecurities. And number two is I have a responsibility to the person next to me to make sure that I'm not feeding their insecurities, right? So a lot of the times we want to look outward and say, no, people need to, but we are the people who need to start like revolutionizing things so that other people don't feel insecure. Now, my question is, I think this is my final question.
Before you throw the final question, can I chip in?
Go for it.
On this one, because Akona has spoken passionately, which was great. No, I don't even disagree. I'm just speaking like I don't know how religious the rest of you are, but there's a passage, something that happened with Jesus that really struck me. It's in John chapter 2, verse 23 to 25, where it says, now I'll read it. Now when he was in Jerusalem at the Passover, in the feast day, many believed in his name when they saw the miracles which he did. But Jesus did not commit himself unto them, because he knew all men, and needed not that any should testify of man, for he knew what was in man. Now, this is a curious passage. Like, we can have a discussion 2 hours long just on this passage. But I want you to notice a few things. First of all, Jesus is reaching out to people, and people are being receptive, right? People are being receptive. And my natural expectation is that Jesus will be excited, like, oh, okay, they are believing, they are following, and all these different things. But then the author twists it around, turns it around, plot twist, and says, but Jesus didn't commit himself unto them. Because, and like, look, it's saying, I don't think Jesus was sad. He should have been happy. But he says there's this thing called committing to them that he didn't do. And why? He says, because he knew all men and didn't need anyone to tell him what is in man. And for me, this is the thing that too many times Akona is speaking about expectations in friendships, in relationships, and all these different things. I think that's good. It's necessary. I think that if we do not have like expectations, we are not investing emotionally, which means we're not really in a relationship. It is good. But I believe that even as we do so, we should do so understanding human nature. So even as Les was speaking about her father, it's important to understand our parents' limitations. You get what I mean? It's important to understand our, like our romantic interests or other person, husband, wife, girlfriend, boyfriend, their limitations, our siblings, their limitations.
Yeah.
Not just superficial, but even in terms of their personalities. So for me, I'll give an example for myself. My personality, it's even my love language is quality time. So I might not tell you that you're beautiful and everything, but I'll spend quality time with you. And if you do not interpret that as love, if you do not interpret it, you will miss it. I don't know if you get what I mean. And you miss it not because it's not there, but because you have not taken time to understand me. And even, I hope that makes sense. So even for myself, I need to understand my own nature so that I understand why certain things are affecting me in a certain way, why I see myself in certain situations in certain ways. Because otherwise, like the reality is that I do not have control over my environment. Even though I have some control as to who I may get into a relationship with, I do not have control over what they are going to do. And so I need to, like, and for me, I think this is necessary, not in times of crisis, but in times of peace. Whilst I'm single, I need to think about, like, look, if somebody cheats on me, what does this mean? You know what I mean? What does this mean? Does it mean I'm unattractive? Does it, like, what does it mean? What does it not mean? If my friend betrays me, what does this mean? What does it not mean? How should I deal with this situation? Because I think that when we have such constructs and such an understanding of others and ourselves, when the situation comes, we're not as bombarded. Because when you're bombarded, like, you know, like you're saying about your friend Akona, when she found out that her husband was cheating, it had not even seeped into her consciousness as a possibility. You know what I mean? I can just imagine her like, other men, but not my husband.
Not
You know what I
mine.
mean? And yeah, not mine. So for me, I like to say, like, look, I know that it could happen, but I really hope that it doesn't. With all my heart, I hope that it doesn't. And I think that kind of balance helps us deal with these situations so that it doesn't develop into an insecurity, or it doesn't develop into a stereotype where all men are trash, you know what I mean? And things like that. Yeah, let me allow Nompi to ask a nice question.
Before I ask, I know Akona had her hand up. I saw that hand.
Yes. The reason I have my hand up is it was when Sean mentioned the whole, you know, issue of, or the point on love languages. You know how he put it is exactly our problem. It is exactly one of the issues that we have as people, is that you know your love language. My primary love language is also quality time, right? And then I also have acts of service. Listen, there are other love languages that are not in that 5. The 5 kind of like is like it births others, right? I can that's a story for another day. But for me, I feel like as people, we like to expect people, the people who are in relationships with, to speak our love language, and we never make an effort. No, so and so must make an effort to speak my love language, but we never make an effort to speak their love language and receive how they speak to us and how they show their love to us in ways that they know how to do, how to do it. Now, when it comes to relationships, like I said earlier, it is relating, it is work. You learn my love language, I learn your love language, and we have to meet somewhere halfway so that we both walk away having been fulfilled by and having found value in this relationship that has brought us together. I'm not going to get into a relationship with someone that, for instance, has a love language that is words of affirmation, and then I don't learn that love language, and then I walk on like, no, they don't love me because they don't spend time with me. You know, but we have to put in the work. Our problem is that we get so disappointed because we don't want to put in the work. There's nothing as, no, we shall go with the flow in relationships. Relationships are work, whether it's a friendship, whether it's with family, it's different, because we kind of like, I'm stuck with you, you know? So whether I work or I don't, I'm just kind of stuck with you. But with people that we do not even grow up with, it is work. Our problem is that we don't want to work. Nature will take its course as far as it can, but we need to put in the work. And then he mentioned something else. Okay, I forgot about it, but I wanted to mention 2 things, to make a point on 2 things, but I forgot. But the whole, it's expectations. Expectations are healthy. I agree with you, Sean. But our problem is that sometimes we don't want to communicate them. I cannot meet your expectations when you don't communicate them. And that is where we get it wrong. So I walk away feeling disappointed. I walk away feeling rejected. And because I expected you to do this for me, or to be this in this relationship, but I did not communicate it. So I have to communicate. That is why they say communication is key. Guys, it sounds cliche, but it is so, so important.
Okay. Just one more person before we move on. I saw Ashford had his hand up. Ashford.
Mr. Jason?
Oh.
Unmute. Okay. Ashford, you are unmuted, I think. You can go on and talk.
Thank
He
you
hasn't
so much.
been unmuted.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
Thank you. I was trying to unmute. I'm trying to unmute myself.
Okay.
Thank you guys for the quite profound discussion. But for me, where I sit, where I learn is that what I've learned in my short life is that people don't disappoint us.
Okay.
We disappoint ourselves.
True.
Why I say that? We put people in a pedestal that they are not. And when they act out their true colors, we get shocked. So but the signs are always there. That's the first comment. The second comment is that the biggest challenge we are facing as a African child, for a better word, is that we don't want to work on ourselves as individuals. We get into these relationships broken, and you expect fulfillment from someone else.
Yeah.
You know, you know your quality time, spending time by yourself is very important. How can I learn to love someone else if I don't know what makes me click? So the moment you don't know how to spend time with yourself and you don't know how to love yourself, you develop insecurities in a relationship. Because as an individual, you don't know who you are. So I heard what Akona was saying. I heard what people were saying. How do I communicate my love language if I don't know it? Because 90% of people get into relationships, they don't know what they want. So my advice in my short life, what I've learned is work on yourself. And another thing that affects is our upbringing. Most of us come from broken families. And that thing affects us as individuals. We think you're fine, but subconsciously you're not fine. That's why you find a child who grew up in an abusive home. He's loving and all. From nowhere, he starts beating up his child. He starts beating up his wife. So as individuals, it's very, very, very important to work on yourself and to work on your mental strength, your love languages, such that if, for example, a circle does something to me, because I know who I am and I know what represents me, I quickly address it. And the issues of insecurities are quickly addressed. Those are the two comments I wanted to make.
Okay, thank you for that, Ashford. I think that's very important. We need to, we get into these relationships, we get into like whatever it is that we are in with people, and we haven't dealt with the real issues that are affecting us. And we get in there and we just project, and then we think it's someone else's problem. So we really need to fix those things. But my final question for everyone was, this whole insecurity thing, is there a time or a point where it ends, or am I going to be struggling with the same insecurity of acceptance for the rest of my life, and I have to just keep on doing those affirmations every single morning? Or is there a point where it ends? I know, and I know Jabulo mentioned something about him not having any insecurities
Maybe
anymore.
he should go first.
Maybe he should go first. That's what I was
he
thinking.
seems to have dropped out, but I'll just say, like, I think that insecurities develop over time. Like typically during, like, you know, there's the formative years, there's as you're starting school, as you're starting high school, like those, I don't know how to call them. Like I personally call them pivots in your life. I think that's where a lot of insecurities start. So I still expect that I may develop more insecurities as I grow older. But what I hope and what I think is healthy is that as we grow older, we learn to deal with them so that the old insecurities are dealt with. I can move on from that, which refines the skills that I can use to deal with whatever insecurities may creep up even as life goes on. But since this was your last question, it seems like you're closing. I also wanted to throw in there that I think, you know, this thing for love yourself, I think there's that element also to just say, I think it's Latin, infra dignitatem, or something like that, which means, like, you know, this is below my dignity. To have that basic minimum, like for me, I love friendship. I really, really value friendship. But there was a point in my life where I said, I'm not willing to be a disciple to be a friend. You know what I mean? And what I mean by disciple, this is a term we use amongst my siblings and I, where you're basically worshiping someone else, whatever they say. Or like, you know, as kids, let's play football. You don't want to play football, but you agree. Let's do this. You're just a disciple. As much as I like playing with others, as much as I love and value friendship, I'm not willing to be anybody's disciple, to be their friend. And I think those are some of the things that help us not to develop insecurities in a relationship. Like, look, there are certain things that I'm not willing to do that I think will take away from who I am.
Mhm.
So at this point, it means that I need to leave. If this person cannot appreciate me in these ways, then I need to leave. And it's painful. It will cost us all these different things. But I think that if we don't have that basic level of self-dignity, I won't even say self-love, like dignity, like, you know, I saw a meme that was interesting, saying, like, you know, the next time I'm in love, I'll just do it in secret, because being in love with somebody's son is really embarrassing. And I think, I feel that, you know what I mean? It's you're very vulnerable when you're in love.
Yeah.
But and that's why I think that it's necessary to have that basic dignity for yourself, that basic dignity for your relations, that basic dignity for your nation, basic dignity for all that is related with you. I didn't get a chance in the beginning to say my definition of insecurity. My definition is simply any element about yourself or anything connected to yourself that you have not come to terms with, accepted, or embraced. So all these categories, I must embrace myself. I must embrace all that is associated with me. I must accept it, embrace it. And that balance between, like, saying, okay, this is who I am, this is where I am, and that's okay. And yet at the same time to have the presence of mind to say, but it is not okay for me to stay here. I must work towards better. I think that balance would really help us deal with a lot of insecurities.
Okay. Thank you, Sean. Akwana.
What was the question again? Wow, Sean, that was a mouthful.
Yeah. Am I going to deal with my insecurities for the rest of my life? Am I going to have to deal with my feelings of inadequacy
Yeah.
until I die? Is it going to be a constant struggle, or is there a point where it ends?
I strongly believe in working on yourself. I think Ashford mentioned this, that it's important to know yourself. Work on yourself. I'm a strong believer in working on myself. I'm a strong believer in learning lessons. The reason I mentioned journaling earlier on is because it's a big part of my life. It's been a big part of my life for as long as I can remember. And the beauty about journaling is that whatever you put down, it's actually a reality. It becomes, whether you are saying it, that it's in the future, it becomes a reality, like you know how real it is. And you can always go back, because we forget, maybe because I can be forgetful sometimes. You can go back to your journal and you read, and it shows you growth, whether you are growing or you are stagnant. So I strongly believe in growth. I strongly believe in working on yourself. And Sean mentioned this, that you need to interrogate where this is coming from. And you don't interrogate what you don't know, right? What you have not accepted. So no, the answer for me is no. You don't have to have your insecurities. Like I said, the moment you linger longer in that insecurity, negative thoughts, they come. Listen, 2020 has been hard. 2020 for me personally, maybe for other people it has been a bit kinder, but for me personally, it has been really hard in so many ways, right? And I've seen people, even people in my life and people around me, and how hard it has been for them as well. And it is human nature that you would have negative thoughts, right? It is not a sin. It's human nature that you're going to have negative thoughts. When that negative thought comes up, what are you going to do about it, right? When you go through an experience, what are you going to learn from it? Whether it was pleasant or it was unpleasant. What are you taking into your next step in your life from that experience? So for me, approaching insecurities in that way means that you don't have to have insecurities for the rest of your life. You don't have to keep that one insecurity you've had maybe from when you were 15 for the rest of your life. Keep working on yourself. And truth is, You are not the same person you were when you were 25. Now that I'm 32, I'm not the same person I was when I was 25 or when I was 30. People grow. The problem with us is that we do not talk about things. We do not want to address issues. Like we live in a society that that sweeps things under the rug. You know, no, I'm just going to move on. And you act like you are okay. It's okay not to be okay. The moment you are not okay, what am I going to do to be okay? That is a very important question. Find healthy ways of dealing with your insecurities. Find healthy ways of getting to know yourself. Be honest, be real with yourself. Sometimes, you know, sometimes even with God, we become so superficial in our prayers. Be like, yeah, Lord, but how does it help? Because God already knows you are busy praying this superficial prayer, and God is like looking down at you like, girl, I'll wait for you. Ne? When you are ready to be honest and real with me, you'll find me here because I'm God. I ain't going nowhere. So we once we become so comfortable with being superficial, we cease to grow. So we need to be honest with ourselves, and whatever comes, when you are honest with yourself on your own, by yourself, you are able to face whatever comes when you face the world, because you know that whatever comes is actually adding or aiding your growth rather than stagnating it. So for me, I'm like, don't linger longer on that insecurity. Like I said, I speak affirmations when something negative comes up. Even if I have to go to my Bible or my prayer journal and look up a verse that I know on this day I had this verse that I studied, and this is what it helped me go through, or I go play a song, or I read whatever is positive that will help you fight that insecurity, go for it. But do not hoard over it. Do not be comfortable in that insecurity. You can overcome it. Anyone can overcome it. I mean, it's called growth. That's what I want to say.
You just reminded me of that verse. Whatsoever things are pure, true, good,
think upon things.
Think upon those things. And
yeah.
I think a lot of the times we're not thinking on good things. We're dwelling on the negative aspects of our lives and all the things that we wish were right with our lives. So it's important that we need to refocus on everything, basically, and work on ourselves. Like I keep hearing that being echoed, like throughout from the beginning of our discussion up until now, that there is a responsibility that we have to get over our insecurities. We need to get over our what's the word? Our victim syndrome. You know, where you think, no, this is because of everyone else, but we have a responsibility that we play. Guys, you've been awesome. Sean Akona, Jabulo, I don't know, he dropped off.
What happened to him?
I think he was
network. No.
Yeah,
you know, it was network, and her ancestors did a strike back.
You know, I just remembered something. If I may share, I just remembered something that was said by Pastor Papu in one of his presentations. I think it was a Family Life presentation. And he said, you know, people walk into, well, is walk the right word to use? Anyway, people get into marriage or walk into marriage or relationships with the idea that the person completes them. And then he goes on to say, the moment you start looking at the person you are with as your better half, or the person that you complete me and all that, you start expecting them to do things that only God can do for you.
Mercy.
And truth of the matter is, relationships magnify our insecurities if there are any.
They do.
Relationships have a potential of bringing out the best in us, and they also have the potential of bringing out the worst in us. By relationship, I mean however way we relate, you know, because there's like family, there's friendship, there's, you know, romantic relationships, then there's, you know, work, colleagues and stuff like that. All the spaces we are in and the people we relate to and relate with, they have a potential of either bringing out the best in us or the worst in us. But either way, they are a mirror. You know, it's like you having a relationship with God. My relationship, I speak for myself, my relationship with God has changed over the years. And it's been a constant mirror over the years. It's a magnifying glass that shows me even the things I'm like, I didn't realize I was holding on to this and I didn't want to give it to you. And God is like, yeah, that's the part that I want you to surrender. That's what I want. Give me that. I hear all about this, but I want that, you know? And I'm like, no, but I don't want it. I want that. I'll wait for you. So relationships show us who we are. The thing is, every one of us has an idea of who we think we are and who we believe to be. And then we become so surprised and so shocked when something happens, and then like, oh wow, I didn't realize I had this characteristics in my character, like in me, you know? I didn't realize that I had this trait in my character. But once you learn that, there's got to be something that happens for you to grow into becoming a better person tomorrow or the next time something like that happens. So I don't want us to be too hard on ourselves, because I know I've been around people who suffer from mental health issues, and I've tried to have conversations with them. And you don't want people walking away thinking, okay, you don't love yourself. Just because you're struggling in this area, you don't love yourself, you know? But for me, it's about, now that you know this about yourself, what are you doing about it? So I just had that thought. That passed up. So let's just take it as a mirror, take it as, okay, yes, thank you, Lord, this is what I have, please help me, and we grow from there.
Thank you for that, Akona. Lesejo, over to you. I think we are done and we have exhausted this topic for just today. I look forward to having you guys back on the panel again very, very soon. So, you know, be prepared to be real soon again.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Lesejo, are you there? I think you're still muted.
It looks like Les is
Okay,
here.
guys, sorry, I was muted by the host. Thank you so much, guys, for
Okay, it looks like Les' network dropped off again, but I think she was gonna say thank you so much to everyone for being a part of this discussion, and we look forward to having you guys on this platform with us again very, very soon. Yeah, thank you so much. And tune in next week. We have another episode coming up next week, Sunday, same time. And please do not forget to subscribe, to follow us on Facebook, to subscribe to our YouTube channel, and also to follow us on IG. Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Bye.